Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take a look at a video called Kakaguri is the strangest anime I ever watched. The link will be in the link in the description. So let's take a look at this video.
I spent a lot of my life online in pursuit of the strange.
Oh, I have seen this anime. It is a very strange anime. It's about gambling.
Weird shows especially have always captured my imagination, and there's no better medium for it than anime. Cryptic stories, interesting characters,
Death Note.
there's a wide, sweeping scale. This strangeness allows us to explore things we've never even considered before. So when I come across a truly strange show, one with depth and purpose, I always become obsessed with it. And Kakaguri might just be the strangest one yet. See, Kakaguri as a show is centered entirely around gambling, but unlike many shows about
This is my favorite character. I forgot her name though. She's my favorite character. I have no clue why. Oh yeah, because she's a psychopath and I guess I like psychopathic girls.
gambling, the type of games they play are never normal. From completely new games like the Culture Club's Life or Death to completely insane games like the Tower of Doors, you'll never be bored in Kakaguri. But on a wider scale, beyond the games themselves, it's really a show about once. In most circumstances, the end goal of gambling is money, and even then most people understand that they likely won't be leaving with as much money as they came in with. Gambling is a recreational game to most, where only a few games are even possible to make long-term profits. So for most gambling shows, their options for games and stakes are pretty limited. You bet money and play one of 5 games as they
And this girl is the other girl I just said.
rise to the top. But as we've seen with Kakaguri, they're able to pull off really anything that they want. How did they pull off such a feat?
This character stinks. He always puts up his hand and puts on his glasses. He's the worst character I've ever seen in this anime.
What makes this show so strange? The answer lies in exactly 3 things. Yumeko, Kirari, and Hyakkaou
Yeah, Korari. That's her name. She's my favorite character. I have no idea why.
Private Academy. Hyakkaou Private Academy is a high school for the teenagers of Japan's rich and powerful. Since almost every single one of these students are guaranteed a powerful position in life, there's almost no reason for sports to be how students spend their time. Since a tactical mind is favored far more at the upper echelons of society, worth is measured not by athletic ability, but instead by gambling. The student council runs the entirety of the school with no adult supervision whatsoever. Naturally, a school for leaders would lead themselves, but the student council was also in charge of the pet system. See, since almost no student in the school could realistically run out of money
Gambling is for living.
under any normal circumstances, not only are all bids incredibly high stakes, but the bottom 100 students most in debt are labeled as pets. Stripped of almost all rights, these students act as slaves to the rest of the 3,000 students attending the school. Non-pets are required by school rules to be incredibly
Oh yeah, they made a remake for the Netflix and yeah.
cruel, constantly mocking and torturing them. The way you avoid this fate is by donating money to the student council. A massive chunk of your gambling profits goes straight to the council in exchange for living a comfortable life in the school. This gives the student council an incredible amount of power, gathering billions of yen from a captive audience. The surface level symbolism of the show, as you've likely picked up by now, is a sharp criticism of capitalism. Yumeko even spells it out for the audience in episode 1.
Madness is at the heart of all gambling. In a capitalist society, money and life are one and the same. No one in their right mind would ever trust their entire fortune to a roll of the dice. And yet they love it. People still throng to casinos because they derive such pleasure from risking their very lives.
The rich and powerful stay entrenched in power while keeping the poor in debt and subservient. The only way for people to live a comfortable life is to constantly pay their hard-earned money to the ruling class, simply because they're the
Capitalism.
ruling class who decides the rules.
You pay us, we keep you comfortable. You don't pay us, we give you nothing.
The symbolism deepens by the realization, episode after episode, that gambling in Hyakkaou is almost completely unregulated. Since most gambling games are based entirely on chance, it only makes sense that the people who rig them are the only ones that can make a consistent profit. Even the students outside of the council are rigging games in their favor. When we first meet Mary Saotome in episode 1, we find out that she puts as many students in
Holy crap, I didn't know she was well developed. She is well developed. I did not notice that.
to her debt as she possibly can. She uses this control over hundreds of students to decide exactly what cards are written.
This character right here is a nobody. He's a worthless character. He is a nobody.
down in a game of vote, rock, paper, scissors.
Oh, I'm so sad. Oh, I gotta be a chair. Be a chair, stupid.
Students write down any of 3 hands, rock, paper, or scissors, on a card and throw it into the ballot box, where both players draw 3 cards. If Mary is able to control which cards get written down, she knows what hands to play in order to win every single time. As she gets more and more money and more students under her control, the strategy becomes almost unbeatable. That is, of course, until Yumeko Jabami arrives.
Chapter 2, Yumeko.
Kakegurui is a show of wants. That is to say, every single person in the show wants only one thing. Mary wants control, hence her puppeteering as many students as she could. Itsuki wants approval, namely her father and Kaede. Yuriko wants to maintain the culture club, Midari wants to die, and on and on. Since money means nothing
Yes, my favorite character.
to the rich and powerful, the only thing that matters to them is the opportunities that being at the top of this school's hierarchy can bring them. Yumeko, however, wants absolutely nothing. In fact, the only thing she even cares about
It's gambling. That's all she cares about is gambling. She loves gambling at any cost.
is the act of gambling. In the very first episode, the student council president recognizes just how disastrous such a thing could be.
Miss President, the data we have on the girl who joined Year 2 flower class.
So, a serpent has appeared in my Garden of Eden.
The student council had every single student strung up like marionettes, even to a point making life plans for the most indebted. But Yumeko, by nature, cannot be
Didn't even know she was well developed. Holy crap.
controlled because she doesn't want anything. She doesn't need to win or profit, all she wants to do is gamble. If Hyakkaou Private Academy is a jungle with its own food chain and ecosystem, Yumeko Jabami is a fucking tornado. She doesn't care about how powerful you are, how deep she is in debt, if she even gets anything out of winning. Every single animal is at risk of complete and utter destruction. But it's not enough for her just to beat these people at their own games. She ups and ups and ups the stakes until their very livelihoods are on the line. Mary loses control over everyone the moment she falls into debt. Itsuki loses her position in the student council over her crushing loss, putting her father's company and Kaede
I love gambling. Let's gamble some more. Gambling, gambling, gambling is fun. Let us gamble forever. Let us gamble for fun. Gambling, gambling, gambling is fun. Let us gamble forever. Let us gamble forever. Gambling!
Kaede's approval at risk. Yuriko would have lost the culture club entirely if she lost the game of life or death. All of these people facing the chance of losing everything they built up in just one game. One of my favorite through threads in the series is that no character can quite grasp what Yumeko is thinking. Yumeko, even after getting more than enough money to pay off her debts and stop being a pet, still hangs on to the title because of the official match. Alright, pets get to challenge any one person. For 2 episodes straight, the whole school is clinging on to this idea that Yumeko's gonna challenge the student council president to take over and destroy the pet system, but if you've been paying attention as a viewer, you would already know that she would never do such a thing. She doesn't want to challenge the status quo, in fact she absolutely loves it. So when she instead challenges Kaede to a match and he refuses, she decides to use her one official match against him to the dismay of Itsuki and everybody else.
Because she's impatient.
And even though that one was pretty obvious, it's still pretty difficult to understand what Yumeko is thinking most of the time. One thing you may notice throughout the series is that we never once hear the thoughts inside of her head. Every episode in the series is either told from the perspective of Yumeko's opponent or Mary, Itsuki, or Ryota. This complete blindness to what's going on in Yumeko's head calls into question everything she says and does in the series. Nearly every time she shows any emotion other than cheerfulness, it's almost always to win a gamble. She begs Mary and Itsuki to play one more game where she destroys them, insults Yuriko's honor to make her bet way more money than necessary, and enlists Itsuki to put on a show for Kaede to goad him into putting everything on the line. Every emotion she displays is a complete and utter farce, except for when it comes to the thrill of gambling. Admittedly, my least favorite part of the show is by far how horny it is. It's uncomfortably, intensely sexual sometimes, but unlike most anime who only do it for fan service, it does actually have a kind of point here. The only time Yumeko feels anything is when she forces herself and her opponents to put everything on the line. That thrill is the dragon
Sounds better in Japanese because I like her voice in Japanese.
and she constantly chases in the series, so naturally, every time it happens, she gets really into it. The only other genuine emotion she displays in the series is an almost comical hatred for Midori. She has absolutely no problem with cheaters, which is great since the series is full of them. She considers losing to cheaters the fault of the person being cheated for not catching on. In fact, the mere act of gambling with someone she considers a bonding experience, wanting to become friends with anyone she's gambled with in the past, cheaters and all. But Midori is different. Instead of cheating to win, she tried to rig the game in order for herself to lose. Midori is an interesting character. She's the head of the Beautification Club, essentially the school's police force for anyone trying to oppose the council. Our first real encounter with Midori shows her challenging that one asshole guy to a game
Ah, yes, that guy.
of Russian roulette, before very quickly escalating things even further. It's clear from the get-go that Midori has a bit of an obsession with death. However, when Yumeko doesn't seem fazed by it, even thanking her for the help, Midori becomes obsessed with Yumeko. After the ass guy gets his hull kicked in a game of Indian poker, Midori challenges Yumeko to a very special game. 2 revolvers are loaded with as many bullets as each person wants and deposited into the table. Each person tries to guess the order in which the dealer placed down the cards. The winner gets one of the 2 revolvers at random and fires 1 shot at their opponent. Yumeko only agrees to play if 3 rounds are played and Ryota is the dealer. This is only episode 6 of the series, by the way. This shit goes hard. These 2 episodes, told from Ryota's and Midori's perspectives, try to sell the idea that Midori and Yumeko are 2 sides of the same coin, that they're both
not.
obsessed with dying. But as the game progresses, it becomes more and more obvious that Yumeko is trying to end this game in a tie. After 3 rounds of various fuckery, we find out at the end that Midori was cheating the game not to win and kill Yumeko.
She just wants to die because she gets off of it. This is a mirror that reflects this thing or something. I don't remember it that well. I just finished watching it.
But instead to lose so that Yumeko could kill her. Yumeko was less than pleased. The difference between Yumeko and Midori seems small but is pretty stark. Midori feels nothing while gambling and wants to be destroyed, while Yumeko loves gambling and the chance to be destroyed that comes with it. While Midori is addicted to pain, Yumeko is addicted to the risk of pain. The only similarity between them is that their addictions are the only way they can feel anything. Outside of extreme happiness and complete disgust, we never see Yumeko lose composure, one of the only people in the series to do so. And trust me, when someone loses composure in Kakegurui, you will know they lost composure.
That's crazy.
The animation in Kakegurui is insanely impressive. The studio behind it, MAPPA, has been working on a wide number of anime since 2012, most
Attack on Titan.
notably the final season of Attack on Titan, and working on new anime like Jujutsu Kaisen. Without paying much attention, outside of the grander moments of the show, it looks like a pretty regular anime. But so much work goes into giving card games the intensity of life or death situations, because in Hyakkaou, they pretty much are. In the pretty kick-ass opening of the show, outside of the unrelenting horniness, is a message of heaven or hell sprinkled several times. This is one of the many connections to religious symbolism in the series, but that specific phrase is very important. When Yumeko puts everyone's ambitions on the line, everything they truly value, their hopes and dreams, that is their life they're putting on the table. The simple gambles on everything they ever hoped to achieve is the only difference between heaven or hell. And if you take this scenario to its logical conclusion, Yumeko is the devil. Or, in other words, a snake in the garden. When you think about it, Hyakkaou Private Academy is a sort of Garden of Eden, only in the sense that it's entirely pure. It's without restrictions or limitations. The strong prey on the weak by any means necessary. Even a school composed entirely of big fish still finds its way to a natural hierarchy. If you remove morality from the question, it's a place entirely separated from the complexities of the outside world, a pure ecosystem driven entirely by your abilities as a gambler. Yumeko's arrival to Hyakkaou threatens to expose these students to the forbidden fruit, gambling for the sake of gambling. But there is one very important difference between—
They have no faces. All of them are useless characters. This is a useless character. This is a useless. They're all useless.
the biblical garden and the one we see in the show. The difference is that in Kakegurui, God and the devil are one and the same. Kirari, the student council president, is the perfect antagonist for the show. Kakegurui would warrant a good enough review if the president was someone like Kaede.
And this is her right there. Corey's right here. She's wearing the mask. She's my favorite character for some reason.
Cold and calculating as an opposite to Yumeko's compulsion and chaos. But instead, Kirari is ethereal. Her face almost never deviates from mildly amused. Her skill at gambling is absolutely crushing, beating the former student council president the moment she transferred. Throughout the series, she is completely and utterly untouchable. But after Yumeko and Kirari
Holy crap, I didn't even know she was well developed either. Oh, take that back, I already knew that.
finally meet face to face after 11 episodes of build-up, the similarity is striking. They completely and perfectly understand each other. In Season 2 of the show, Kakegurui XX, the similarities between Kirari and Yumeko are deepened even further. And after watching through the show up until this point, it feels right, in a way, for them to be so similar. But why? Kirari, at first glance, seems like a foil to Yumeko, the person with absolute power, completely untouchable and unaffected by anything that comes her way. But in truth, the differences pretty much end there. The student council is almost entirely made up of the weirdest people in the school. It becomes very obvious that their gambling prowess is not the reason they're part of the council. Midori clearly just wants to die. Runa doesn't even play in any gambles, often acting as a referee. Yumemi is basically just an idol.
Wait a minute. How can she be her and her be her, she? I think they're twins. Maybe they're twins or something. I don't know if that was revealed or not because I'm barely on the second season and I haven't watched this show in a while, so I'm not sure, but I wonder if they're twins. They have to be twins. I think they're twins.
Gambling prowess is not the
They're two for the price of one.
reason they're part of the council. Midori clearly just wants to die. Runa doesn't even play in any gambles, often acting as a referee. Yumemi is basically just an idol. None of them come off as strong players. In the case of Yuriko, we find out later that Kirari rigged the entire room in order to make sure that Yuriko wins no matter what. Kirari has the final say over every single person who joins the council, so why these people? Why the weirdest ones? Why not the strongest? Because Kirari is a really, really cool antagonist. There's only so many motivations that a big villain of a series can have. Power, revenge, jealousy, greed, obsession, almost all of them are boring and tired out. But out of the small pool of motivations, my absolute favorite is amusement. The only thing that Kirari wants, the thing that motivates her every action, is just to be amused. To see new things, to see how people react. Think Ryuk from Death Note, Flowey from Undertale, King Boomy from Avatar, fucking Swiper from Dora the Explorer. The only motivations for these characters is just to fuck around and see what happens. And that's exactly what Kirari does. She didn't create the pet system because the strong should always prey on the weak. She created it simply to see what would happen. The aquarium is the most common symbol in the show, from the opening theme to the very centerpiece of the student council room. Just like the aquarium, the school is entirely by Kirari's design. But when a snake enters the garden, despite some early attempts to stop Yumeko, Kirari comes to like her more and more. She allows Yumeko to destroy her garden simply because it'd be fun to see what happens. A fun fact I came across while researching for this video is that not every sect of Catholicism
That's why I like her.
is against the partaking of the forbidden fruit. Specifically, Mormonism sees the fall of man as a necessary step to bring us where we are today. They don't consider it original sin or a serious mistake at all. It's almost treated as if it was an inevitability. In Kakegurui, destruction as a whole is almost treated the exact same way. In every venture of life, your destruction is going to happen at some point, but especially with gambling. The difference between everyone on Kakegurui and Kirari and Yumeko is that instead of fearing destruction, they seem to welcome it. But even then, how is it that these two are so similar? Well, think of it this way. They're often represented specifically through the symbolism of mirrors. When cartoon characters enter a mirrored world, everything is opposite, but personally I don't think that's quite right. Even though your surroundings are opposites, there's no doubt in your mind that when you look into a mirror, you're staring at yourself. Kirari and Yumeko are one and the same in opposite circumstances. We get very little backstory for Kirari and Yumeko, but we get enough to paint a picture. Both were born into the Momobami clan. Kirari was born into the Momobamis themselves, the heads of the 100 devouring families, and very quickly found herself in charge of the entire clan. Yumeko Jabami was born into a small branch family with next to no power, to the point where most of the clan had no idea she even existed. Kirari immediately found power in the school and
I really like Harari. I do not know why. She's a psychopath. She's crazy. I guess I like that.
created the pet system, while Yumeko transfers to Hyakkaou with absolutely nothing, specifically because of the gambling system in place. Every character in the series is constantly and relentlessly confused by both, because both Kirari and Yumeko, in the end, simply want to be amused. Kirari doesn't actually seem to care much for power, and only retains it because it lets her see new things, those supernovas that fascinate her so much, to see people be beautifully destroyed. But as Yumeko points out, both of them will eventually risk it all and be met themselves with complete and utter annihilation. The only reason, to Yumeko, that seeing others destroyed is entertaining is because you're risking that chance yourself. So naturally, in the final episode of Season 1, Yumeko and Kirari leave their entire beings up to chance. The tarot card game is a change from the manga, but I feel it's absolutely perfect for the climax of Season 1. Naturally, putting everything up to fate would warrant cards that divine the future. Kirari and Yumeko completely disregard the chance at profit and instead put their lives on the line. That is to say, the loser has to leave Hyakkaou Private Academy for good. Each would lose their paradise, leaving—
You're going to leave, and you're gonna like leaving because I said so. Do you understand? Oh, I don't want to leave. Shut up, you're gonna leave, whether you like it or not. Do you understand? Okay.
Everything up to fate. This is the first and basically only episode to speak on the concept of fatalism. Every card represents some value of points, and depending on which direction it faced, would either take away or add points to the total. If it came out negative, Kirari would be the winner, and if it came out positive, Yumeko would be the winner. But the really interesting card is the Fool. While cards 1 through 21 simply gave point values, the Fool, 0, would instantly win or lose you the game. In any other show, this card would be the deciding factor. Our brave protagonist would believe in the heart of the cards, putting everything on the line and coming out with fate squarely on their side. On turn 1, Yumeko draws the Magician upright, gaining her 1 point. After a long speech about the idea of fate, Kirari draws the World upside down, taking the total from +1 to -20. Ryota is the last person to draw, effectively sealing the fate of whoever the points side with. The twist is that Kirari marked a card. The only card she was shown to touch was the Fool, but she didn't draw it on her turn, nor did Yumeko, who undoubtedly saw it. Ryota, in this moment, the one that will decide whether or not Yumeko will stay or leave forever, finally realizes
I hate this character right here. He's such an annoying prick.
what it is Yumeko wants. He actively decides not to draw the marked card, and instead picks a card completely at random. He, instead of the Fool, draws Judgment upright, putting the total at exactly 0. Fate decided that the sides of the mirror are completely equal, one and the same. The marked card is never revealed, keeping us completely in the dark as to whether or not she actually marked the Fool or some other card. But to be honest, considering everything, there's no doubt in my mind that she did, in fact, mark the Fool, leaving complete destruction up to the chance of another person. Seeing her own supernova might be the only thing that she has a desire to see anymore. But neither Kirari nor Yumeko drew it. It'd kill the magic to be the one that pulls the trigger on yourself, after all. We see Kakegurui XX begin immediately after Kirari dissolves her position of Student Council President. When the first season of Kakegurui released in 2016, it was met with some criticism. Mother's Basement, a now sizable anime review channel, made the posit that not only does it have problems, but it is in fact a terrible gambling anime. Though I feel he misses a lot of the point of the show, a criticism I did understand was the claim that Kakegurui is predictable. In a show like The Queen's Gambit, a fantastic limited-run series about an orphan's rise to the top of the chess world, Beth Harmon loses major games only a few times. The difference between The Queen's Gambit and Kakegurui is how much Kakegurui focuses on the games themselves. In The Queen's Gambit, the person—
The heck? What the heck's this thing? What is this? What is this here?
watching doesn't need to understand chess whatsoever to get the gist of what's happening. The vast majority of the show was focused on Beth Harmon and how she develops as a person through her successes and failures. Her skill moves the plot forward while focusing entirely on Beth Harmon as a person. In Kakegurui, Yumeko by nature is unchanging. Even further, every single game is carefully explained and played out in great detail. The focus is not on Yumeko necessarily, but rather how Yumeko wins every game. So, when out of the entire series she only loses one match in Season 1, and only by a cheat she didn't consider, it's easy for a viewer to get bored. What Kakegurui XX does amazingly well is circumventing predictability. Having Yumeko lose would still betray her almost untouchable nature in the show, being only beaten so far by a cheat designed by Kirari, her equal. But in Season 2, the election elegantly sidesteps the problem entirely. Every single student in Hyakkaou is given one vote chip, totaling around 3,000 votes total. You amass votes by gambling, and as the games go on, the stakes get higher and higher as fewer and fewer candidates remain. This setup is genius because it completely bypasses money altogether. You have a fixed amount of things you can gain within a time limit, and every single character in the series is put onto a seemingly equal playing field. The prize, becoming the student council president, also leads to better setups for games.
I still think these two are twins. This Kaori and this masked woman have to be twins. I haven't finished the series yet, but I'm pretty sure these are twins. I mean, I have finished the series, but it was a long time ago and I forgot. But they have to be twins.
See, what the student council is capable of is kept fairly vague throughout Season 1 of the show. The most we come to learn is that the student council has enough sway over society to plan out someone's entire life, including who they'll marry and their exact position. In Season 2, we learn that the scale of their power reaches far beyond simple life plans. Because nearly every powerful politician, CEO, and general leader come through Hyakkaou, the long-standing student council has sway over the entirety of Japan. But not only will the winner of the election be granted the presidency, but Kirari is also offering her position as head of the Momobami clan. The Momobamis, also known as the 100 Devouring Families, are a clan of branch families holding riches and power.
Holy crap, these are huge.
In every industry of Japan. Because of Kirari holding both positions, they're basically linked to one another, giving the president unmatched power over the fate of an entire nation. We come to learn pretty quickly in Season 2 that every branch in the Momobami clan absolutely despise Kirari for her reckless abandon. Because of this, a whole new group of representatives from the branch families transfer to Hyakkaou to take a shot at the throne. This new cast of characters brings a whole new life and much higher stakes to the series. Instead of money and dreams on the line, within the first episode people's fingers are in guillotines. It's clear immediately that the Momobamis are willing to maim and murder for the power that comes with victory. I also love how distinct most of the characters are. The brilliance of having both the protagonist and antagonist of the series be unyielding forces of change is that a massive amount of time that would be dedicated to character development for them can instead be spent on every other character in the series. Since we never hear the thoughts going on in Yumeko's head, we get to see things from the perspective of both Yumeko's friends and opponents. We come to understand their wants, hopes, and dreams, as well as everything that's on the line for them. If any other series had a Yumemite, I guarantee you that I'd forget them within a week. But when you see her get absolutely dragged through a mental breakdown for like 10 fucking minutes on stage in front of hundreds of adoring fans, you begin to understand just how unstable and passionate of a person they are. Even well before the introduction.
What the heck is Matt Walsh doing here? I'm Matt Walsh and I don't know what a woman is, so I have to make a video about it.
Of the Momobamis, the show makes an active effort to have basically no character other than Ryota have any sort of empathy. As much as I like to drag him through the mud, he is a necessary part of the show, serving as an empathetic anchor for the audience. One of my favorite moments in this show was the first interaction between Mary and Ririka, Kirari's twin. After Ririka offers Mary
I knew it! They were twins! Cool, they're both twins.
100 vote chips under the condition that they'll work together in the election, Mary rips off Ririka's mask and refuses the offer. In most shows, Ririka's admitting
Holy crap.
that she doesn't want anything would humanize her to Mary and eventually get her to agree to the deal. Not only does Mary coldly refuse the offer anyway, but it's then revealed that Ririka already planned the entire encounter out to force Mary to join her at threat of Yumeko's death. Even the most soft-spoken character in the entire show is completely willing to threaten lives for her own personal gain. And all of this suffering and pain and pleasure is happening in the cosmic palms of Kirari's hands. Kakegurui XX doesn't end with the election. In fact, we're only halfway through. Despite this, there are two different climaxes to the season, through the final two games.
Oh, now I remember Kaori and the other one fall in a bush thing, and they hold each other in a warm embrace. I remember now.
But for the sake of time, I'd like to focus on the first. The Adjacent Girl and the Logical Girl, episodes 9 and 10, cover the game between Yumeko and Sayaka, paying off the longest running tension in the series. We see all throughout season 1 and 2 Sayaka becoming more and more concerned with Kurari's interest in Yumeko. We find out that Sayaka has a bit more on her mind than simply being a good secretary. All throughout grade school, Sayaka was fiercely dedicated to her grades, so much so that she was the top of the entire school system, including Hyakkaou Private Academy itself. This wasn't out of a pursuit of knowledge, simply to be the best at something. It can be assumed that this dedication was pretty aimless.
Yeah, she jumps off the building, but
only defaulting to school because it was the most important thing in her life. That was until Kurari came along. Sayaka witnessed
Sayaka falls off the building. Oh no! And Kurari falls and catches her in the leaves, and it's supposed to be it's romantic or something. I don't know.
Take on the former student council president and immediately became enraptured with her. To Sayaka, just like us, Kurari came off as this untouchable being. She completely defied logic, the very thing that Sayaka ran her entire life off of. So when Kurari became the most important thing in Sayaka's life, she dedicated her entire being to someone she could never really touch, making her essentially bound to Kurari for life, trying to become the best at something she could never understand. Then comes Yumeko, an almost perfect match to Kurari. While Sayaka could never understand what Kurari wanted, Yumeko had an almost psychic connection to her. This slowly building tension of Sayaka losing the person she cares about most explodes in episode 9. Naturally, everything that was said for Yumeko could also be said for Kurari, but love is blinding. Sayaka challenges Yumeko to a bet outside of the election, one where their very lives are at stake. In any other show, this would be the ultimate stakes. Death is, of course, the ultimate price. Yumeko ups the stakes beyond the chance of dying if you lose. Not only is their life on the line, but also everything they hold dear. For Sayaka, that's Kurari. For Yumeko, that's gambling. In this instance, death is not the punishment. It's been shown multiple times already that these characters don't really consider death a threat. Death is merely a tool to make sure that the payout is completed. If Sayaka dies, she can't live for Kurari, dying a total stranger to her. If Yumeko dies, she can't gamble anymore. For
gambling.
such a large bet, we get the biggest game in the series, the Tower of Doors. The Tower of Doors is a 5
Whoa, this is like a Stephen King book. Well, if you read the Dark Tower series, you would understand.
story tower made only for the sake of gambling. The goal is to go from the top to the bottom, then back up again. Each player solves problems of varying difficulty, trying to solve the fastest way back down and up the tower to reach the end as fast as possible. The tower in its entirety was designed by Kurari. Unlike any other game in the series, this is a pure structure and game made completely and only for the sake of gambling, to the extent that it functions as a double for Kurari's mind. Thinking of it this way, this game is whoever understands Kurari better. From the very start, Sayaka realistically had no chance of winning. As you'd expect from the series, Yumeko naturally beats Sayaka. While Sayaka always followed the most logical and efficient conclusion, Yumeko found the fastest route by picking options that seem useless. The specific words of the deal is that the loser would not only lose the thing they cared about most, but would also have to jump from the top floor of the tower, where they could live if they solved the final puzzle. Sayaka, absolutely crushed, picks the outside door with the answer 5, fully intending to die. If she can't have Kurari, her life lacks any purpose. But as she plummets to her death, Kurari jumps down with her. There's a crash pad at the bottom of the tower, only on the door Sayaka picked. Naturally, Sayaka, guided by logic,
Oh, how sweet. I don't know if they end up together or not, but if they do, that's beautiful.
would choose the answer where she would fall 5 stories. If she chose any of the other 4, she would have died. It's implied that both Yumeko and Kurari expected Sayaka to lose from the start. We're never shown exactly how intelligent Yumeko is, but the amount of things she's been able to pull off in the series implies that, like Kurari, she's almost completely untouchable in terms of problem solving. So with that in mind, Yumeko likely agreed to this game knowing full well that the bet wouldn't really follow through. Even though Sayaka doesn't die in the fall, she would still have to become a complete stranger to Kurari, but in the first act of what seems to be empathy from Yumeko, she actually lets it go. Whether that's the first time Yumeko showed empathy or because she truly believed that's the case, we'll never really know. Personally, I think she simply knew from the start how the bet would play out due to her understanding of Kurari, but it might also be out of a mutual respect for her. As we know, Kirari only keeps around people she finds fascinating, people she doesn't entirely understand. The moment she came to understand just what she found so interesting about Kaede, she immediately kicked him off the council. But Sayaka, a being driven completely by logic and reason, is the exact opposite to Kirari.
Does anybody know if they end up together or not? If they do, I'll read the manga.
Just as Kirari is untouchable to Sayaka,
Yuri crap, this Yuri stuff is pretty cool.
Sayaka is untouchable to Kirari. This makes them essentially bound to each other for life in just about the weirdest form of love I've ever seen. These two insane episodes define exactly what I love about this series. Batshit insane games, crazy motivations, amazing visuals, and an unexpected conclusion. It's amazing to me that a character dying was a more expected ending than not, but that's Kakegurui for you. Strange, ethereal, intense, and absolutely fascinating. This is not the final game played in Season 2, but I feel like it's the most climactic. As much as the Momobamis are cool, until Season 3 comes out, it's really hard to conclude anything with them. But I feel this game gives us insight into the two most important characters in the series. The intelligence and power and skill these two have could allow them to do really anything they want. But it's precisely because of their untouchable nature that they really have no interest in it. When you can have anything you want, you can't enjoy anything. Pleasure and enjoyment comes from strife, so those who can have anything are pretty fucked for options. You can try to see new things, watching supernova after supernova, but even that gets boring eventually. And as the walls close, as your life becomes more and more empty as you get more and more power, the only thing that brings you joy is the chance that all of that goes away. The thrill where everything is on the line, that your entire life might be destroyed. They're not masochists or sadists. They don't want death or to ruin lives for the sick pleasure that comes along with it. Simply put, they're bored. So, what do you get for someone who could get anything they would ever want themselves? The answer, in Kakegurui, is inevitable destruction.
My favorite character. What you thought of Kakaguri if you've seen it? Until we meet again, my fellow strugglers.